It's like laundry and stuff. Storage, extra stuff, yeah. It's a bunch of room, make it fun. All right, so you guys see the screen? See it now? All right. What am I doing? I am okay. So if you have your project, this is how to make the section perspective that I was talking about. So you take your camera, top left, you could do click camera there, or it's under view, 3D view, camera. Pick the side that's more appealing. So because Winston has this spiral staircase, that's the more appealing side. So get a few feet away, try to get it like in the center of the building. Get this as straight as possible. So you click once, you click again. And I have my viewport, that's the building, right? Maybe I'll make this a little bit wider. Maybe make it a little bit taller. So in order to hide this wall, rather than right-clicking and press hide, right? I'll go to the properties panel and I'll check on the section box. And now it brings up the section box. So if I zoom out, you'll notice that I can't move where that section is being cut. But if I press, if I go to the first floor and I press WT, brings up multiple windows. If I could zoom out in the crop view, I could look at the 3D view and I could look at the floor plan. So I could take that section box and I could bring that cut in. So now in my 3D view, my building is now cut. So I will enlarge that view by closing these. I don't really need to see them anymore. So it looks like you have a topo surface going through your basement. So I could actually go to my basement and I can go to architecture. What is it? Site. Massing and site. I could put a building pad in. That will make sure that I don't cut through the basement. And I'll put that around the building. So if I look at the section, now that building pad is cut so that the topo surface doesn't go through the building. So now I'm going to go back to that 3D view, 3D view 1. You also have a money shot, so we'll see if how that compares. What's your money shot? Nice. So we're making this. This is ideally what we're making, right? So I will call this, I can rename that view to section perspective. Hopefully I spelled that correctly. All right. So what I want to do here is I bring up the view wheel, right? I can walk in. So maybe I'll move in a little bit closer, give it a little bit more detail. I could walk in a little bit further. But the further I walk in, the wider the sides are going to go, right? So I'm going to expand the view. I'm going to zoom in. I can hide the CAD drawing in the background. It's nice that you have some context of a potential other building. We don't really need the section cut anymore, so you can actually go in there and you can hide that element. So if you ever need to move the section crop box, you can always unhide and with the light bulb, and you can find it here. So you can always right click, unhide in view. Now it's visible. So right click, hide in view. Now it's invisible. So we're going to then, you can go to the view wheel here. And if you click and hold down, you can go up or down. and that's going to raise my perspective. So I want to kind of get it in the middle, so a little bit above the first floor. I could also use the look view. So maybe I want to look a little bit more straight, make sure that the eye level and the target level are at the same elevation. So maybe it's 16 feet there. Target elevation is 16 feet. Let's see what that looks like. So it's still kind of stretched vertically. It also kind of doesn't seem like it's aligned horizontally. So I could use the pan tool and I can look a little bit to the right, and I'm going to look a little bit to the right here. So it's by clicking and holding. If you ever mess up and like look too extreme, you can click and hold down the rewind button. And if you just slide the view to the left, it'll align back and rewind the changes you made to the view. So I think if I look a little bit down and straight, I think that looks a little bit better. I can move this crop down. I can move this crop down. Maybe I want to look a little differently. Like here, pan a little bit more to the left, look a little bit. So it's trying to like, I'm trying to create a 1-point perspective out of this 2-point perspective. I might crop this in a little bit more and maybe drag it a little bit down. So it's centered on that elevator. That's my main feature in this project for this design. You see, if you could double click in the middle of the mouse, it zooms in. So like, let's see how this looks on a sheet. So if I go to my sheets, go to view, I'll add a new sheet on the right there. So that's 30 by 42. I'd want a 24 by 36. So you could actually go into insert, load Autodesk family, go down to title block. I want the 34 by 40. Oh boy. All right. So let's assume that we have the right sheet size. I'm not going to do this right now.
Are you going to send us the correct one?
I should send you the correct one. I think it's in project 2 I made it, project 1 I made it. Yeah. I will make that right after this. So you'll have a 24 by 36 title block, and you're going to drag and drop that on there. For now, I'll just use the default one. I think it's because I made it in a newer file, but not everyone's using 2023. So I'm going to make it as an old file so that everyone can use the old file. So if you drag and drop your section perspective onto that sheet, whoa, hold on. So I go to the section perspective and I drag it onto the sheet, expand the sheet, drag and drop. So now it's on A101. Well, wait, hold on. Click, drag, drop. So now it's on A101. If I want to make it bigger, right? I go to size crop. So I do scale locked proportions. So now it can be, maybe it's 16 inches instead of the smaller number. So now it's a lot bigger on the sheet. Maybe it's a little bit nicer. Drag that over, drag that over. Now we have this nice image. Still looks a little wonky. So maybe I need to just look further away and it'll shorten that crop. So I can bring this in. Now it's a little bit more widescreen. Bring this in, bring that in. It's a little bit better. So I also want to go into my visual graphics. So that's if you type in the letters V and G, here's my visibility graphics. So what I'm going to do is go to the different walls and I'm going to override the patterns for the cut of the walls. So it's going to be a solid fill, black. Press OK, press OK. So all the walls are now black when I'm cutting through them. You can also go in to the visual visibility graphics, you go to floors because you're going to have floors in your model. If you have stairs that you're cutting through, you're going to want to do the same thing. So floors, roofs, solid, stairs. The hatch pattern for the earth kind of looks nice if you have a topo surface in there. So you can leave that if you want to. But say like this building pad, right? I can override the graphics in the building pad. So I right click, override graphics. So now the cut pattern, same thing, black, solid fill. I'm only doing the foreground. We're not going to get into any background type graphics, but it looks nice, right? If I want to, maybe I want all the furniture. So all the furniture you can override by category. It's the same thing. Maybe I want them to be halftone. Maybe it's less important. So I'm going to put that in a halftone. You have a pattern on your ceiling. That's kind of interesting. If I want to cut through the railing, right click, override graphics by category. Maybe my visual graphics, maybe my railings doesn't have a cut pattern because it's so small. So don't worry about that. You have to add the opening in the wall here for those windows. Otherwise, you're not letting light into the space.
Sorry,
You need to add openings for these windows here. So no light is getting through because there's a wall behind it.
that was not one thing.
Cool. So then so for here, if you import a family, that's a little odd. You could actually right click, override by element and change the surface pattern lines to maybe they're black. It's a weird family. What you could do is just make sure I don't see it if you want to. So this looks good. This looks nice. To make it a little bit splashier, you can use, if you're using any colored renderings, you could do shaded. I prefer for this drawing specifically, everyone just uses a hidden line. Just one drawing, section perspective, hidden line, right? If you go into shade and shadow and then turn on the graphic display options. So it'll toggle shadow, right? Shadows on, shadows off. Show ambient shadows, that'll give it a softer edge to all the spaces. You want to also use under lighting, you can bring down the shadow tone. So that could be 25 instead of 30. And that'll make the shadows a lot less stark. So the drawings will read a little bit more forward. You could also add and increase the sunlight. Maybe that's 50, it'll make it a little bit brighter. And that's kind of it. If you want to go a step further, if you bring up the graphic display options, you could add a sky, but this looks awful, so don't do that, right? Because we don't have, this is where our horizon line is, because we don't really have space there, it's kind of easier just to keep this in infinite space. Like it's not a real place, so we don't have to add a realness to it. So ideally for this drawing, for everyone to have like a really identical drawing of this content, you can just keep it like that. If you wanted to, so you can export the image when you print it, that'll be fine. But if you wanted to save it for yourself, you could go to File, Export. You can even save it as just an image. Row house, current window. you, instead of zooming to a certain amount of pixels, you could just make it 100% of the size that it is. You can make it a JPEG, it'll keep it as a white background, maybe 150 image quality. And then I am saving it in my, I'll put this one on my desktop for now. Press OK. Save your file. And now I have this nice desktop. Now I have this nice image of my rendered section. And like we were saying before, if you have presentation drawings, right? Here's level 1 with dimensions. If anybody wants to know how to do that, so you can add, you want to make sure that it's in the right scale. So you can use 1/4 inch scale, should fit on the drawings. You might need to turn on the crop view in the crop region to kind of shrink to make sure that your drawing fits on the sheet. You want to adjust your section cuts so that they don't go through your drawing. Right, maybe this comes out. So the difference between the flag and where the section is cut. So this is me adjusting where the section is actually cutting through. We want to make sure that it picks up on the back wall. Maybe it gets a little bit larger. What else can I do? So you can tag all your rooms. So if you have a room, you could label the rooms. These are already labeled. This is outside. So once your rooms are labeled, you can tag them. So that'll give us the square footage. Here is a closet. So maybe I can call this one a closet. So I'll go to room, tag the room. Maybe that closet is just a CL for closet. So now if I want to colorize it, I can go to the color scheme. Spaces, instead of spaces, you do rooms by name. And now anything with the same name, see how like this one says number 11 and 12, living room is living room, and then living room is one word here, but it's two words here. That gave it two separate colors. So what I would want to do is find out where I'm writing living room and just decide if I'm calling it one word or two. So that way, when I go to the other plans, it's a consistent color scheme. And then here, if I'm showing the kitchen floor, that's good. Same thing here. You can go to the visual graphics and change the wall colors to override black poche solid. And that's how we can do that. Also, these dimensions are rounded, which is good. And that's that. Anybody have any questions? All right.